All right, let's jump right in. Picture this. You're in Victorian England. Industry is booming, everything's rigid, and there's this new obsession, almost a religion, with a certain kind of knowledge. A knowledge built not on wonder, but on cold, hard data. And you know who saw this whole thing happening? Charles Dickens. And in his 1854 novel Hard Times, he basically puts this entire mindset on trial. In this quote, this is the battle cry of that era. It perfectly captures the educational philosophy that Dickens is about to take apart piece by piece. This is the foundation of the world we're diving into. A world where imagination isn't just seen as silly, but as a dangerous enemy. So what does a world built completely on facts actually look like? Well, Dickens doesn't just tell us, he practically gives us a tour guide. So, meet Thomas Gradgrind. This guy isn't just a character, he's an idea walking around in a suit. He's a man who has built his entire life, and even worse, his kids' lives, around one single belief. If you can't measure it, weigh it, or define it in a textbook, it is absolutely worthless. He's the ultimate champion of utility, and the sworn enemy of wonder. Now, Dickens does not pull his punches here. I mean, the very first chapter of the book is literally titled Murdering the Innocents. That tells you everything you need to know about how he feels. To him, this isn't just a bad teaching method, it's an act of violence against the human spirit. So this philosophy, it actually has a name, utilitarian pedagogy. But for Dickens, this wasn't just some theory in a book. He saw it as the spirit of the Industrial Revolution marching right into the classroom. The schools were basically designed like factories, all about efficiency, order, and churning out people who would become perfect, compliant little cogs in the industrial machine. You see, at the very heart of this system is a huge misunderstanding of how a child's mind even works. Kids aren't seen as little flames to be kindled, but as empty containers, pitchers, Dickens calls them, that you just fill to the brim with facts. There's no room for individuality, no space for creativity. Any little spark of imagination is stamped out immediately.
So, what's the end game here? What happens when you actually raise kids this way? What's the real human cost of an education that has no heart? Dickens shows us, and believe me, the results are absolutely devastating.
Let's look at the star pupils. On one hand, you have Gradgrind's own daughter, Louisa. Sure, she knows every fact in the book, but she has no idea how to feel anything. It's just a void, and it leads her into a miserable, loveless marriage. Then you've got Bitzer. The system worked perfectly on him. It turned him into a purely rational, self-interested machine with zero compassion or morality. So in the end, this perfect system really only produces two things: emotional zombies or cold, selfish robots. But Dickens doesn't just leave us in this bleak world. He introduces a powerful alternative, a force that this whole world of facts just cannot understand. He calls it the power of fancy, which is really another word for imagination. So just remember that world for a second. That cold, sterile classroom where children are just being shaped into spare parts for a giant machine. Got that image in your head? Good, because Dickens is about to flip it completely on its head. And the antidote to the factory is the circus. Yeah, the circus. What Gradgrind just sees as chaos and total nonsense, Dickens shows us is actually a world that's just brimming with community, creativity, and real human connection. It's everything the school is not. And right at the center of this world is Sissy Jupe. Now, she might fail every single one of Gradgrind's fact-based tests, but she has everything the system ignores: kindness, compassion, and an emotional strength that turns out to be way more valuable than any definition she could have memorized. Sissy is the argument, in human form. Okay, so after showing us these two worlds clashing against each other, Dickens brings it all home to deliver his final, powerful verdict on what a real education should actually be. I mean, when you just lay it all out like this, the contrast is, well, it's stark. The path of fact, the one that Louisa and Bitzer walked, it leads to a dead end of emptiness and selfishness. But the path of fancy, the one Sissy represents, that leads to life, to vitality and compassion. It's pretty clear which world is actually thriving. And this really gets us to Dickens's core message. See, he isn't arguing against facts or against knowledge. He's fighting against an education that only values facts. What he's passionately pleading for is balance. He wants a system that nurtures our intellect and our heart, because without both, we're not really whole, are we? And that leaves us with a question that feels just as urgent today as it did back in 1854. In our own world, obsessed with data, with metrics, with standardized tests, Dickens's warning feels incredibly relevant.
How do we make sure that in our endless quest for knowledge, we're also taking the time to educate the heart?